Hello, welcome to Girl Talk. Today we are going to be discussing what could be a very controversial topic, but I think it's important and essential, and I've got two amazing guests with me here today. On my left here I have...
Hi, I'm Jenna Gibson, and I've been a member of the Students for Life Club for about 3 or 4 years now, and I've had the ability to be a board member for the club for all those years.
Wow, and she's a senior at Trinity Christian School. And I invited her because I was fascinated by a young person starting a club like that, or actually a friend started it, right?
Yes,
You want to give a shout out?
Yes,
to
we
our
do.
friend.
She
Yes.
was such a big helper in starting the club, and she felt just so pulled to be a contributor to the movement. And her name's Alyssa Thoburn, and she's continued to help the club. She still tries to reach out to us and help us with topics. She started it in, I think it was 2018.
Yes.
And the club just grew tremendously under her guidance. So she was the president until her senior year of 2021.
Right, and
year.
she's at Liberty University now? Is that
Yes,
where
she is. Yep,
Okay.
she's just blown up in the Students for Life movement there, and she's contributes wherever she goes.
Good for her. And she goes to the March for Life
every year.
Every year. Yep, I remember she'd take off from school and go and take a group of people. And I'm so happy that we were able to get the male perspective, and I have here on my right.
Hi, I'm Soren. I've been a member of the Students for Life Club at Jenna's school for about 2 years because I recently transferred.
Okay, so Soren, what made you join the club? Like, what attracted you to the club?
About the time that I transferred to Trinity, I started becoming more politically interested, I guess, and I learned about the abortion issue, and I realized that wow, this is really important. So I heard about the club, and I thought it would be a good idea to join.
Do you know anyone who's had an abortion, or is it just for political reason that you were attracted to it?
No, I don't know anyone.
You don't
it's
know
mostly
anyone.
the moral aspect of it. Really
Aspect.
interested me. Yeah.
Really good. Okay. And then Jenna, why are you passionate about this? Is it something that, a friend had an abortion, or?
I do have someone very close to me that was partook in an abortion at a very young age, and that I actually learned about after I had gotten involved, and she felt open enough to tell me about it, which was a very moving experience. But I got mostly involved in the movement because Alyssa actually invited me one day to the club, and it really got me interested, and it made me realize how bad the issue is right now with abortion, and that the fact that we're not having a third of our generation alive that would be our age right now because of the abortions that got legalized from 1973 and on. It's just, it's a modern day genocide of infants.
And when you say it recently got bad, do you feel in the past it wasn't bad? Or what made it get worse through the years?
Well, it obviously got much worse when it got legalized in Roe v. Wade. When it was legalized, that's when it was like a free range for women to be able to get abortions all the time. But what's made it get worse recently was when the pill for abortions was able to be ordered offline. And that makes it so that we can't even track the number of abortions. It's much more than we can even keep track of. And so it's really just a heart-wrenching issue.
And that's why you take it to heart.
Yeah.
Soren, you were talking about your political interest in it.
Yes.
So do you plan on getting more involved politically?
Yes, I do. Probably just through this club. Last year, due to COVID, we weren't able to do too much stuff. Stuff kept getting canceled, and I was also really busy, so wasn't able to. But this year, I definitely hope to get more involved, like with the March for Life that was mentioned earlier, and stuff like that.
And what about for your future? Do you see, are you going to be a politician, or how will you make an impact and a change after the club, like after leaving Trinity?
I don't plan on being like a politician, going that far. More like just staying involved with these groups, associations, and supporting them, doing the stuff. Yeah.
Are there any other guys in the club, or?
I think there are a couple guys that sometimes attend, but as far as board members go, I'm the only guy.
You're the only guy. Yeah. Okay. And what do you guys discuss and do at the club?
We do a variety of things. Usually it's like planning our next thing that we're doing. Last club meeting, we actually had a mock debate, which was fun.
Okay. So. Do you have anyone in the club that's, I know it's a pro-life club, but do you have anybody who's kind of on the fence about it? Because some people could be pro-life, but then there are circumstances that they would be pro-abortion? I mean, they would be okay with the abortion.
I'm not really sure. Due to the nature of the club, I think that if you're attending, you're probably already pro-life and just looking for a way to get more involved.
What recently happened in Texas? Were you following that whole decision making?
Yes.
Okay.
Jenna might know some more details. I haven't been following it that closely, but I have the general idea.
You have a general idea, and we are going to have to talk about that because I think even a lot of Christians were very upset about what was going on in Texas. But if, and I don't want to use your family, but if you know of a girl who was raped and she ends up getting pregnant, should she abort the baby or keep the baby?
Well, I believe she should ultimately keep the baby. It's a very hard thing, and I wouldn't really be able to relate to the extreme trauma that she'd experience. So first, I think you need to show compassion, because hear her side and everything. But ultimately, I believe the baby should not pay for the sins of the father, and that it's not the baby's fault that it was conceived in a rape. So, and the baby's life still matters. So
if this was a really close friend of yours, you would definitely encourage her to keep the baby.
Yes.
And then I know these are theories that are out there, but if she was to keep the baby and the father was a rapist, and they believe the baby probably could potentially grow up to not be a good kid. Do you agree with that?
No. I think that if the father's a rapist, I don't think that necessarily means the child will be a racist. I don't know if morals are genetic like that or anything.
Right.
So.
And also we don't know, I mean, obviously a rapist does not have a sound mind. There's something, obviously, there's got to be some sort of mental illness for someone to commit such a crime. So I would have to guess most of these rapists have mental illness, and that is hereditary. So because I'm just trying to, I mean, I'm with you. I agree with what you're saying. No baby should have to pay the price for someone else's sin. But who's going to be there with that mom when she's going to spend the rest of her life with perhaps a child who is suffering from the same kind of mental illness that his father did or her father did?
Well, I would say that you really have to ask about the nature versus nurture aspect of things.
Right.
Like how they're raised to treat women. And those who are rapists and commit such horrible crimes, you have to look at where they've been raised, because I think if they weren't raised with a strong father figure in their lives that told them how they should treat women, or if they did have a father figure who maybe told them that they could treat women that way, I think that's more of a nurture thing than a nature thing. And I think that some rapists, they might have a mental illness, but I don't think it's true for all cases.
Right. Okay, so we are going to actually take a break right now, and we're going to pick up with this question again when we come back in a few minutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Girl Talk. If you're just tuning in right now, we are discussing pro-life, abortion. In our last part, we concluded with what happens if a friend is raped and she gets pregnant. Does she abort the baby? Does she not abort the baby? And the impact, and whether or not this baby's going to grow up with the same issues the father had. And I think I could safely say both Soren and Jenna agreed. She keeps the baby. And I know that's hard for a lot of viewers to hear that, because I think many people are used to hearing rape, abort. And I love how Soren said the baby shouldn't have to pay for the father's sin. And that's true. And then nature versus nurture. If this baby is going to be raised in a loving Christian community, the baby has a great chance. And we can't discount what God can do through this child's life. Right now, we're going to be addressing a very big issue, the Supreme Court issue in Texas.
Yep.
And I think Jenna's got a lot of knowledge on that, and I would like to turn it over to her.
Yes, so recently in September of this past year, they said that they said in Texas that it became illegal for women to have abortions past the age of 6 weeks of finding out that they were pregnant, and that anyone that would try to help and assist in the women going to different states to get abortions, even Uber drivers, they can be court-martialed, they can be arrested. They really have it on lockdown, and that is a huge win for the pro-life movement. That was not something that we could have really imagined, but we had Texas, such a big state, step up and do that, and it empowers other states to do the same, to be able to use their state rights to enforce those sort of laws.
You were happy, you were pleased, because I know a lot of Christians actually were really upset. Even Christians were upset about that decision because they were saying, why is it the fault of an Uber driver? What if he doesn't know where he's going? So why does he have to be dragged into the problem? But I do agree it's a huge win for pro-life, because obviously there are many other states that are going down a very different route. Do you have anything to add to what she was saying?
No, not really. But I do understand the whole, like, if other people are involved or assist, like, where do we draw the line there? I was in class and someone said that, well, if someone takes a plane to another state to get an abortion, is then the pilot of the plane held accountable and stuff? So it's kind of a gray area, but I still think it's a big win for the pro-life movement.
Right. I mean, I think it sent out a loud statement. I don't know what's going to come of it because do you think other states are going to follow? Do you see other states following?
Well, I believe it was yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that they were going to basically hold off on trying the case because they don't really know if it's constitutionally the federal power to have those rights in place by them or if it's the state power. So they are basically waiting on the case and letting this law be enforced until further notice. That's how it is with the situation right now in the law.
Have you guys heard outside of TV and media any comments about this? I mean, because I'm hearing from my Christian friends, they were not happy, which I was shocked. To be honest, I was shocked. Yeah. Are you guys hearing anything from family or friends? Like, how did they react to this?
I've only heard positive commentary, but I am blessed to be in a very Christian environment most of the time, so it allows me to hear their perspective on the issues. And I do think that there is a wide array of people who are like, oh, it's kind of an overstep for them to be thinking they can, arrest those who were even like slightly involved. But I think they're not necessarily, well, obviously, like Soren said, it's a gray area, but they're not necessarily gonna plead. I think it's if you know and you're knowledgeable that they're going to get the abortion and you're still helping them, then that's really where the issue is because you're obviously breaking the law at that point.
I mean, right, exactly. If they know, that's true. But we were speaking like more about the pilot, the Uber driver. The Uber driver may not know. The pilot certainly doesn't know. But you're right. I mean, it's a very tough, again, like I said, it's controversial. It's tough. I was surprised by a lot of the Christians' responses because they're believing it should be the mother's choice, it's not fair, and the same stuff. But what I wanted to ask you, Soren, so we understand what it happens to the woman, the mother, and it's all about the women, They are suffering and they are struggling and they're the ones who have to make that decision with the abortion. What about the men? What about the guys? What's their role in all this?
Well, it's kind of a pro-choice movement to try to suppress the guys, say guys shouldn't have an opinion because it doesn't have to do with the guy, it has to do with the girl's body. And I always like to bring up that it's male babies that are dying too, not just female babies, so it does affect us. And also, it's kind of an ad hominem circumstantial fallacy to say that your argument's invalid just because of your circumstances, me being male, that I can still have thoughts and arguments and logic that has to do with it. Yeah.
How can we change that though? Because you're right. Most guys don't have a say. And it really breaks my heart when the women keep it a secret from them and they'll tell them after the fact. Because most of the men probably won't even know that she got pregnant and she's having an abortion. But is there anything that we can do to change that, you think? Or
I haven't really thought about this too much,
But I think moving forward, that might be something because I'm also like, when they have a baby shower and they only they only have it for the mom and the dad's not included. I'm like, but it took mom and dad to create that baby, although baby showers can be a little too much for the men. And I think they're happy that they're not included. But that baby came from mom and dad. So, I do believe guys need to be included more. And I feel bad that they're not.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when a father learns later that his child was aborted without his knowledge. So that's something for you guys to think about in the club. I don't know what you can do. I don't know how it could change, but it's definitely something that we can think about, because I believe getting men more involved is going to also make a big change. Because I think when a girl goes and has an abortion, most of it is out of fear. You know, it's out of fear of being labeled. It's out of fear of, how am I going to support this child? It's out of fear of, is he going to stay with me? You know what I mean? So she's operating out of fear, but she's also not giving him a chance to be like, don't be afraid, I'm going to be there with you. So we'll see how that plays out. My last question to you guys: your best friend is completely distraught. She comes to you, she's pregnant, and you're in the same school. And you know, in the school it's going to be really tough, right, to get the word out, because she's got to hide it. And she's begging you to take her to get the abortion and not tell anyone. And she doesn't want your opinion. She just wants you to be with her. What would you do?
I think in that circumstance, you need to be with them as much as possible and tell them you're not alone, and just disagree and just tell them you're not going to take them to get the abortion. So you wouldn't take her? I wouldn't take her. I would take her to a church to see a priest, probably, to have an elder, have somebody who is a counselor, someone who is wise beyond their years and knows all of the reasons why they shouldn't get it. And they just help them, because I think women in that circumstance are just so afraid of being alone and singled out, and they need to understand that there's people, copious amounts of people, who just really want to be there for you, and that they need to understand that what it means to have life and to have a child, and that this baby isn't just something bad that they need to get rid of. It's an opportunity to grow, to let somebody else have life, and that it's not, they need to not have that selfish gain, that they understand that, you know, being put in that circumstance, it might be teaching them a lesson, and it's not a reason to end a life.
Well, that's good. And you're confident you would stand your ground no matter what. Like, that is not something you would waver in. No. Soren, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. The church is a good idea. I would also offer to take her to like a pro-life crisis pregnancy center. They have tons of support for people in those exact situations. So it's a common notion that, you know, if she gets pregnant, she's all by herself and there's no help for her, and that's just not the truth. It
stems out of fear. Thank you. You are both very wise beyond your years, and I love that you have a heart for this. And I pray moving forward, we don't see any abortions anymore. And having people like you, you're world changers. You're going to change the world, and you're going to influence and impact a lot of other people. So thank you for joining us today on Girl Talk. We were not here to offend anyone, but this is all based on Scripture, and it's what the Lord calls us to do. And you can do your own prayer and research, and you'll find that that is what the Lord calls us to do. And that's what I commend these young people for, that they know that now. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. La, 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 la.